Fresh out the box.
Hey there, everybody! Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast, the first podcast to feature me, Johananon. I'm Johananon. Welcome to the podcast.
It's me, Casualty CDG, and I would like to build upon Jahan's legend. This is the first podcast.
The first one ever?
That's correct.
Well, I am the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and this is episode 62 of Fresh Out the Podcast. And it's been about 2 weeks since we last recorded. I know back then I said, hey, we're going to talk about the Rings of Power, because I knew we were going to not be recording last weekend when the show actually debuted. So we have some of that coming up. We will get into that. But for now, there's some other news things happening right now with D23 ongoing, which...
What is that, the new Diablo game?
Yeah, as if Diablo would have 23 iterations when it takes them 10 years to get out the next one.
Yeah, right.
The Mighty Ducks 23.
What's D23? Is that a 23-sided dice?
It is not. It is the annual Disney convention where they announce new things for Disney Plus or new theatrical releases. And it's kind of interesting because they have recently started to split their announcements between San Diego Comic-Con. You know, that used to always be the big thing each year, like the Hall H panel, and that's where you announced everything. Well, now Disney will kind of split some announcements for that, and then they save other big ones for D23. So there have been some Marvel announcements. There's been lots of Disney Plus announcements or titles or just...
What, you're going to do your segment now, Drew?
Yes.
Oh, cool. I got to introduce your segment. Now it's time for Drew's brand new segment. Drew's got rants in his pants.
Rants in my pants. It's true. It's true. And where to start with this one, guys? Let me say, I am a Disney apologist, first and foremost. Like, I am one of those. I was a Disney kid growing up. So I've always been a fan. You know, I'm still a big fan of a lot of the Disney classics, especially those ones that came out in the early 90s when Disney was kind of going through their animation revolution, things like The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and so on. Like, I have a lot of nostalgia for those. I'm a fan of those. And even back when they started to remake all of their live action adaptations of their animated films, like when The Jungle Book came out, I thought The Jungle Book was pretty good. Right,
The Jungle Book, actually, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was good. And then there's just been kind of diminishing returns, right? Like the Beauty and the Beast one, I didn't think was that bad at the time, but I
didn't really need a live-action version of a girl having sex with a dog because a teapot told her to.
Definitely one way to interpret that movie.
The Stockholm Syndrome movie?
There's been the Guy Ritchie Aladdin movie. There's been I actually haven't seen the Mulan movie.
Oh my God.
There was the Lion
movie
King.
Was so unwatchably bad.
Which one? Aladdin?
And
yeah,
I thought it was okay.
As soon as they introduced, what was it? They introduced like a new character, and there was new musical numbers that did not need to happen.
It's been a while.
And then on the Mulan movie, they took out all the musical numbers and took out Mushu, the talking dragon. And the Lion King movie is, to me, the live action in air quotes, because obviously it is all animated still.
Yeah, it's a CG sort of pseudo live action.
I
and it's
boycotted
kind of
the
an
Mulan
atrocity,
movie,
to
so
be
I'm
honest.
upset.
But still, all of these, like, a lot of the critic community has been really down on these. For me, less so. Like, I still am like, sure, why not? Until September 8th. September 8th. Disney Plus Day. This is it's been now dubbed Disney Plus Day annually, where they dump a few things on Disney Plus and try to make you excited about it. And there was a
I know what you
live
watched.
action
I
adaptation
know what you watched.
of Pinocchio,
Yes, there is.
directed by Bobby Z, Robert Zemeckis himself. Yes, the same man who directed Castaway, Forrest Gump, Back to the Future, and Part 2 and Part 3. Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Some movies, did I say Forrest Gump? Some movies that have gone down in history that are some of the most famous movies of all time.
Some of the greatest movies of all time.
And
Those are good
Zemeckis'
movies.
recent output has been pretty widely regarded as not good. This Pinocchio movie, it has retroactively somehow made me despise all of the live-action Disney remakes that have come out before it.
Here.
It's that bad. It's that bad.
I didn't watch it because it looked terrible. I saw a trailer recently. It looked so bad.
It's worse than terrible.
It's really strange, Jahan, because there's this weird part of them that's really trying to adhere to the original and just truly straight up remaking the original, shot for shot in a way. And even Joseph Gordon-Levitt voices Jiminy Cricket in the film, and he is really just trying to do an impression of the voice of Jiminy Cricket from the past. And so instead of him doing something new or something that's his own, it's just like a bad impression the whole time. And it's distracting,
It's
to
kinda
be
funny.
honest with you. And there's some things, but then like towards the end, it takes some swerves and it tries to change some things from the original. It ends really abruptly and terribly. I mean, the ending is really bad. And we all know the ending to Pinocchio. Like, you think hey, here comes a real boy. It's Pinocchio. And they take some strange liberties with that and wrap it up quickly. Tom Hanks is in this movie as Geppetto, and he's just
Miscast.
he's miscast. He's just doing an accent and wearing a bad wig and mustache, and
It's
obviously
me, Geppetto.
acting acting in front of a green screen the whole time.
And it just looks like Tom Hanks the entire time with a bad wig, and it just sort of sounds like a bad Tom Hanks the whole time. There's not much depth to that, or to the performance or anything.
I believe I said it not that long ago in one of our podcasts, but I love Tom Hanks. But I'm kind of Tom Hanks'd out, man. I've seen he's been in too much.
Tom Hanks is probably one of, if not for me, like my favorite actor
He's
of all
great.
time.
I love him.
He's in multiple of my favorite movies of all time, and I find him to be incredible. Now that he's in, he's getting older, and a lot of the movies he's doing a lot of supporting roles that are kind of weird characters and things. Like, I think he's just reached that point where he says, I've got 2 Oscars, I can kind of do whatever I want and just do fun accents or, that kind of thing, and still lead a movie if he wants to. He's in this, which he has a history with Robert Zemeckis. He was in Forrest Gump, and he was in Castaway. They have a history, and it really does kind of seem like Zemeckis was like, hey, can you do me a favor and be Geppetto in this movie to give it a little bit more weight of some sort. But the thing is that this, it's like, literally the animation in it, other than Tom Hanks, pretty much the whole movie is animated. Figaro, his cat, an animated cat. His goldfish, an animated goldfish. All of the donkeys in the donkey scene, animated donkeys. There's not a single live-action thing. The puppet shows that Pinocchio is a part of, it'd be nice if there were real puppets, that even if Pinocchio was CG, if he was interacting with real puppets, they're all bad CG. It's terrible. This movie is a monstrosity. It's garbage. And
I knew we were headed for the trash can in the first act whenever all the cuckoo clocks were popping out, and it was like Woody from Toy Story on one cuckoo clock. and cars on one cuckoo clock, and Disney princesses on one cuckoo clock. And it was just, to me, was just sucking its own ass right from the get-go.
Absolutely.
Look at all the Disney references we could shove in. Like, Geppetto is self-aware of the Disney world.
The entire Disney board of directors bukkakied this movie? Is that what you're telling me? All right.
100%. The clock scene that Gary's referring to just reeks of Disney smelling their own farts and enjoying it. Like, there's a Donald Duck clock, there's a Roger Rabbit clock, there's a Toy Story clock, there's a Lion King clock, there's a Snow White clock, and it's not like these things
look like a lion, where it's kind of cool, like, oh, that's like a Lion King reference. It's like straight up Woody comes out riding on Bullseye, and it's not a little wooden sculpture of Woody, it's like a full CG rendering. No subtlety. That's exactly right. And it's no subtlety for every single reference back to back to back, which takes it. It's not a reference at that point, right? Because there's no subtlety. It's just crammed in your stupid face.
And it's not like these are shown in the background. It pans over and shows them, and then we'll do another close-up shot on it to make sure, like, did you see this? Look at this. I mean, it is in your face. It's egregious. It really is.
It's kind of insulting to the audience, man.
It is. And so then that leads me into, so that comes out Thursday. And then that leads right into D23, where Disney is now announcing all of this crap. Like, here's the thing. They've had a few trailers. They've also had a lot of logos they're just showing. Like, one of them was Mufasa, the Lion King. Because they're doing a, quote, live-action Lion King prequel about Mufasa. And all they did was show the title for it. And it's just like...
I've got a spoiler alert for you guys. He actually died. His brother kills him in the second act with, like, a buffalo stampede. So you could probably skip that movie. He falls in love, right? And they have a kid named Simba. So that too.
It's just... After watching this terrible Pinocchio movie, which then is retroactively making me sour on all these past remakes, now you're going to announce a bunch more that are coming out, and I'm supposed to be excited about these? Just no thank you.
No, you're not, because you're a 33-year-old man, and that's Pinocchio and a Mufasa movie. You're not supposed to be excited about it.
And ooh, here's a poster for Peter Pan and Wendy, and ooh, here's a trailer for Disenchanted, and ooh, here's a trailer for the live-action Little Mermaid movie, which I just am watching these now going, that's going to be poop, and that's going to be poop, and that's going to be poop, because Pinocchio was poop, and everything that's come before it's poop, so why am I supposed to expect that this new thing that's coming out isn't going to be poop?
Oh yeah, it's going to be poop. Imagine the way that you feel, except I feel that way about a whole lot of the recent Marvel projects, too. I feel like Marvel is getting poopier and poopier, and I feel like Disney's side is getting more and more poopy. So the only thing I'm excited for right now on the Disney front is Star Wars stuff, because there's just a lot of poopy poop going around.
Which is ironic in a way, because there hasn't been a Star Wars movie, theatrically released movie in theaters since 2019. There's probably not going to be another one until at least 2024, which means we're going to have been, at the very least 5 years in between theatrical releases. Luckily, the Disney Plus shows are going strong.
Do we know what movie?
We don't. Okay. We don't know. We don't even know. They've announced some early, and now it sounds like some of those are standing still. They didn't make any new film announcements. It's all about the shows, which is fine. We got a new trailer for Mandalorian season 3.
I'm really happy with the Star Wars shows, so that's
shows
okay with
have
me.
been better than any of the movies.
The Mandalorian has been outstanding.
If you can keep this kind of production quality on the shows, then you don't need to poop out a movie every year or two. You can take your time and really grow your content. Star Wars has the background for it.
And I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about Star Wars at the moment, because the Mandalorian trailer looked pretty good. It looked like more Mandalorian, which I'm definitely happy to get. There were some cool shots in it to get excited about.
Looks good, yeah.
Andor looks good.
Andor looks dope.
They've got more coming out on their animated slate that I think people are excited about. Like, there's things there. And then on the Marvel side, they had a couple announcements. They released the trailer for Secret Invasion finally. Which to me looks fine. I like the Secret Invasion comic event where it was Skrulls that had, infiltrated the Avengers and had taken over some of those roles, and it was really all about who is, who isn't. And the show looks like it maybe has a little bit of that, but it really seems more of like just a Skrull invasion of Earth and Nick Fury and is trying to kind of get to the bottom of it. It didn't look like it's going to be an Avengers-focused story by any means.
Which I'm okay with. I definitely would like... I wonder when they're going to get back to the Avengers, you know what I mean? Because there's going to be a new team at some point, and they're building to it, and, I look forward to it. But I'm okay with them not being involved in the Skrull invasion. I liked what I saw in the trailer. It wasn't like, holy crap, I can't wait, but I was like, that could be really good.
This type of narrative event is really good for bringing the team together and the end of it all. Because, everyone's going to wind up being secret Skrull or fighting Skrull, and by the end of it, there's going to need to be a team to fight the alien invasion, or there's going to be a team of heroes who aren't aliens the whole time.
Yeah.
I do like that the seeds were planted for this along the way through the Marvel movies, so we've been wanting to see this story come to fruition. I'm just surprised that it's going to be a show. I thought it was going to be a movie. I thought it would be a great pivotal point for a series of movies, right? 2 or 3 movies even for the Secret Invasion, but one show is a strange choice, especially when they didn't use the multiverse as a world-building tool either. I don't know. The only world-building tool they've really introduced is Kamala Khan being a mutant. Other than that, they're really throwing a lot of these tools by the wayside, I think.
Yeah, and I've mentioned stuff about that before. Like, I wish they would do more. Like, I feel like they did an okay job with the blip, like, affecting the world, but they could have done more. And yeah, you're right. Like, they could do more with these events happening and affecting
these
stuff.
Multiverses could be affecting like 6 or 7 films, right? But instead, it's almost already over, and they're pushing Secret Invasion
over before it began. Like,
yeah, and I just don't. They made some weird choices recently, and it's just not. I'm not really vibing with some of the Marvel decisions.
They've been different. Everything has a different feel than it did earlier on, and like it's hard to keep a monster like this moving with the same, vigor and quality, I guess. But like, I don't know, man. Take a breather. Like, maybe slow down. Reevaluate, I think they need to bring everything back down, man. I think like they could really save it with like Young Avengers, but that's all speculation. I would hope that the Secret Invasion show would feed into the Marvels movie. Maybe that's where it's going, but I don't know.
Probably a good chance that it does, considering the Skrulls were featured heavily in Captain Marvel. Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense.
And when she's off-world, she's dealing with all of that off-screen, so now we get to finally see it, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I thought the trailer looked pretty good.
And then they did show off the roster for the Thunderbolts movie, so our first look at that, which...
that was surprisingly cool, man. I looked at that image for a while and I was like, yo, is that the villain from Ant-Man?
Yeah, I was looking at it too, and I thought it was very smart of them, because they're front and center in the group is Florence Pugh as Yelena, and so, which makes sense, right? She's a young, rising star who's pretty popular. Put her at the front and center. You're bringing back David Harbour in his role from Black Widow, which again is smart because he was a highlight of that movie, and he's in one of the other most popular TV shows on Earth in Stranger Things. So yeah, bring him back and put him in this. Then you get, of course, U.S. Agent. A few surprises with Ghost. That was unexpected for me.
So happy.
Smart to bring in Winter Soldier because he's a staple of the MCU at this point. So bring back, kind of a veteran of these series and put him in there. And then Taskmaster was a little bit less surprising. And I think that there are some that are yet to be announced. They showed that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Baron Zemo and Abomination are in this to some degree.
Who was on the far left wearing the glasses?
I believe that was Contessa. That was Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character. Okay. I didn't recognize her at first either, but I saw some other reports saying that's who it was, so I'm going to go with that.
My biggest happiness from the Thunderbolts reveal was Ghost. I thought she was a really cool villain. I like the actress. and I'm glad they brought her back. Because, like, I don't know, I hate it when, if the character doesn't die, like, you got to bring it back in some capacity, or at least mention them, especially when you do this, like, 30 movie and 12 TV show continuum. Mention them. So, I just wanted to see it.
And Ant-Man and the Wasp is kind of a weird movie as far as its place in the MCU, because in one way it's a pretty pivotal movie to the MCU because it introduces the quantum realm, which is what leads them to do time travel in Endgame. But really, other than that, you know, not that that's a small detail, but other than that, it's a pretty contained, smaller MCU story. And so the fact that Ghost, and I'm not sure of the actress's name, I don't have it in front of me, but the fact that she's getting a chance to come back is pretty cool.
I loved seeing, for me it was David Harbour, and just imagining how that character is going to riff and interact with the other members of that team. Like, you know, Taskmaster's not going to have it. Taskmaster's not going to respond. But U.S. Agent, some of their banter is for sure going to be hilarious. And same thing for Bucky, I would think. I just think he's a great placement on that team to really keep the comedic spirit alive.
I agree. So, and then there have been some other announcements that were kind of... I feel like they weren't getting a bunch of, you know, trumpets blowing, announcing, you know, their arrival. Because one thing that is important that was announced at D23 is that Matt Shakman was announced as the director of the Fantastic Four movie. This was originally announced when the movie was very first announced a while back. It was said it was going to be John Watts, who directed the 3 MCU Spider-Man movies. But within the past year, he had walked away from the project, which I get it. He's done a bunch of Spider-Man movies, probably needs a break. But Matt Shakman directed WandaVision for Disney Plus, directed all the episodes of WandaVision, and has a lot of experience with a lot of good TV shows. You know, he's directed episodes of Game of Thrones. He's been heavily involved in It's Always Sunny. So, you know, and then of course WandaVision was very well received. So it kind of makes sense that he would be somebody that gets, you know, promotion to the next big MCU franchise that's coming down the line. But I thought that was interesting. I felt like it didn't get as much recognition, probably because it's not like there's a trailer attached with it or a big image like with Thunderbolts or Secret Invasion. You know, and it's worth noting too, just talking about D23, with a lot of these announcements and things I was talking about, like Peter Pan and Wendy and Mufasa and even Ironheart, the MCU series. A lot of these things had footage shown at D23 that hasn't been released to the public. So that's what I'm saying. You know, just wanted to make sure that that's clear, even because I'm talking about how all they've released is some logos or names or title cards. If you were there, you got to see more. But from a consumer on the outside, to me, it's all just a little bit like anticlimactic, I guess.
Yeah. Like, Peter Pan and Wendy, that was one of the ones, like, I saw it and I was like, cool. And I was like, or is it? Because I think I like Peter Pan. But then the past Peter Pan movie had Blackbeard and it was really bad. And, like, the cartoon was pretty cool as a kid. And, like, there's been some Pan TV shows that were, like, really, really bad along the way. But besides Hook, I mean, Hook is pivotal, but if it's not Hook, which it's not gonna be Hook, then it's not gonna be good. And there's no way you beat Robin Williams' Peter Pan. Get out of my face.
The Pan extended universe, if you will, is just kind of odd. I believe the Peter Pan character is in the public domain,
okay,
so, like, a lot of
part is weird about a forever child flying into the orphanage, abducting children, and flying them to the imaginary place with have no food and get captured by pirates? What part of that is weird to you?
Yeah, it's all definitely very odd. The Pan movie with Hugh Jackman that you were referring to earlier, you know, is not a Disney production, and man, that movie's really bad. Really bad.
Yeah, it is.
It's a pretty big miss. This, I'm sure, you know, it's going to be more in line with the Disney animated movie. I'm not sure if this one's a direct remake of it or just ties into the original. I'm not really sure what they're doing. All I know is that Jude Law plays Captain Hook in it. So is Captain Hook going to be Hot Hook? Is he going to be Hot Captain Hook? I mean, I'm asking y'all.
I don't think so.
I thought that was a rhetorical question.
Sure.
Is Captain Hook not traditionally hot?
Yeah, man, there's nothing like a curly mustache that does it for me.
Bring
big hat.
me Peter Pan!
Okay, Hook.
I'm a wreck. I don't know.
So anyway, apologies if I don't sound overly excited about a lot of these announcements, but truly, it's all Pinocchio's fault. It's all
Yeah.
Pinocchio's.
Well, that was a segment we like to call Drew Has Rants in His Pants. Thank you, Drew.
Oh,
What
goodness.
would you say Pinocchio is certified fresh out the box or no?
No.
Okay.
It's the first film I've legitimately considered giving 0 stars out of 5.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, I mean, they did a couple other announcements, too. I don't know, I guess it seems like it's more of an insider event anyways, like a press event. It's not necessarily, I don't know, it's not Comic-Con by any means. But there's a big Disney fandom, and they also do things like they have apparently a Disney legend induction ceremony where like they have a Hall of
They
Fame.
do this every year.
What's his name? Josh Gad is officially a Disney legend now. Right? Josh Gad? That's his name?
Yes.
Yeah, that's his
correct.
name.
And then they also showed off a new game that they're doing in conjunction with Ravensburg. Disney Lorcana, which is a Disney TCG that's meant to compete with Magic the Gathering.
That sounds pretty sick, though.
It does sound sick. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. The cards look legit. It seems like they do more of the mana system from Hearthstone, where it's just, mana, you just accrue it over turns. You don't actually have to build it into your deck. But it has, on Board Game Geek, they might have changed it since I looked last. It was it looks like the rating disappeared. Maybe they got in trouble. It was sitting at like a 5.6 on Board Game Geek. Magic the Gathering's a 7.6. But, I mean, 5.6 isn't awful on Board Game Geek because they're very harsh critics. Very much so. I say anything above a 6 is worth playing on Board Game Geek. So I don't know. It's below a 6, but the cards looked pretty cool. I don't know if you've heard of Disney Lorica, but I think it was something that is coming from like within the park. Like I think they've been kind of like beta testing it in the park with like this trading card game that you can participate in if you ask. You go around and battle people. But yeah, Lorica. Or Lorcana, sorry.
This makes way more sense. I'm sorry. I got really distracted. I'm sorry, John, because I'm
It's
just
okay.
going to admit that I was not listening to you at all.
I noticed.
I got distracted because you mentioned Josh Gad getting inducted into the Disney Legends 2022 class, or Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's where I noticed I lost you, and I was very confused. I was like, why did that make him stop listening to me?
Well, I was looking at the other list of inductees. There's always a lot of Imagineers or kind of behind the scenes people, so that's normal. It looks like along with Josh Gad, a lot of the Frozen cast was inducted. You got Idina Menzel, Kristen Bell, Jonathan Groff, so they were all inducted as well. But I saw that Ellen Pompeo was inducted, and I was sitting here going, why is she inducted? She's the star of Grey's Anatomy for like 1,000 years at this point. But I forgot that's an ABC show, so it makes sense because ABC is owned by
Weird.
Disney. But I was
funny.
very thoroughly confused looking at this as to how she fit into this
Is
Disney
she
Legends.
Gray? Dr. Gray?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the
I know you're
titular Dr. Meredith Grey.
That's
on
funny.
Grey's Anatomy.
You said titular.
Yeah, you did. I wouldn't describe people like that. It's rude.
Chadwick Boseman was also part of this
Aw.
class. Anthony Anderson was in it, which he's done a lot of ABC television
Bro,
shows as well.
I watched like the newer Black Panther trailer, and I didn't think I was gonna, but I cried again when they showed Chadwick. I was like, no, I need to get over this.
I recently
Jahan, there are
watched-
some things
watched
you
a
don't
clip
have
from-
to admit on mic.
I watched a clip
I-
from one
hey,
of
men
the scary
cry.
movies recently, and it was Anthony Anderson and Kevin Hart doing their classic bit, and I forgot that it was both of them before they made it big. I saw it and was like, oh, I remember Anthony Anderson, but I forgot that was Kevin Hart with him doing that bit in all those movies. Good for those guys.
Okay, I think that's good on the Disney front.
We didn't mention some of it.
Transition into one thing before. Oh, was there anything else? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I mean, we didn't mention a lot of it, probably because you didn't care. But, Hocus Pocus 2.
Oh, yeah, I watched that trailer.
I was
like
excited
Hocus
for it.
Pocus.
I'm less excited for it after the trailer, but I'll still watch it.
It was a made-for-TV movie. Like, what did you expect from a sequel?
Hocus Pocus is a great movie. But yeah, and then Willow.
Yeah, it was a great movie 30 years ago. Actually, I think it was a box office bomb at the time.
Maybe. But it's been good since. I don't know. I watch it every year. It's still part of Halloween. Willow looked actually pretty damn good, I thought. I don't know if you saw the trailer for that. Warwick Davis returns as Willow, leading a younger band of heroes.
The titular character.
The titular character. He's so titular. That he has returned. He's leading a young group of heroes against the forces of evil. It looks pretty good, man. It looks the special effects look great. It looks like they're really getting the budget, and I feel like there was other things that I was excited about seeing, but that'll do. Oh yeah, Loki season 2. The trailer looked really dope.
Before we dive into Lord of the Rings of Power, I just wanted to shout out a new movie that is in theaters this weekend. It has become one of my favorite movies of the year so far after seeing it, and it is called Barbarian. And the biggest recommendation I can give for this movie, it is a horror movie, kind of more of a horror comedy at times. Directed by Zach Kreger, who's one of the guys from The Whitest Kids You Know. So he, was part of that group for a while. He was one of the co-directors of Miss March, along with Trevor Moore, rest in peace. And so, he's been heavily involved with Whitest Kids You Know, and he directed.
Yeah, I was going to say he's not just part of it; he's sort of the second head of it after Trevor. They were sort of the guys.
Mm-hmm. So he directed this movie called Barbarian, and guys, this movie is incredible. It stars Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, of Pennywise fame, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long is in this movie as well. And all I will say about it is the premise is a girl arrives at an Airbnb that she rented out in Detroit. That when she gets there, there's somebody already there because it was double booked. And then there's just a series of escalating events. There may be secret rooms found in the basement, and then things get crazier from there. And that's all I want to say, because this is one of those movies that absolutely, the less you know, the better. Don't watch any trailers. Don't read any reviews. Don't read anything about it. Just go see it. It is one of the most bonkers and fun theater experiences I've had in a long time, because this movie is just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
It looks really good. Well, I mean, you and Sean both talked about it, and just a couple frames. I don't know, people seem excited about it. I think I would like it. And I will watch anything with Justin Long in it, so...
Yes, and I don't even want to say who his character is or how things are introduced, because it's just the way that this movie escalates and then de-escalates its tension is
I will
kind of
be
incredible.
Surprised if Justin Long is playing anything other than Justin Long.
I have one question before I see it, though. I need to know, just so that I'll actually watch it. I'll watch it as long as it's not secretly Tusk Part 2.
It is not
Okay.
secretly Tusk Part 2, and I don't believe Kevin Smith had anything to do with the making of this film.
Okay.
So,
Because, oh my god, like, I'm glad I watched Tusk, but that movie sticks with me.
I will say that Tusk and Barbarian might make for a good double bill if you wanted to do that. But Barbarian is far and away a much better movie, much better executed.
The Justin Long movie marathon. Yeah.
Oh, man. Barbarian's good. I just wanted to shout it out because this is another one of the things between this and another movie I saw this week, which I'll talk about that one next week. It's just I've seen some good movies that I really liked, and then Pinocchio was so bad, and then we got all these other Disney properties shoved down our throat over the weekend that just I was so unenthusiastic because between Pinocchio and the vomiting of CGI that seems to be part of every Disney property now, it was nice to see some real movies with practical effects and things that were cool and fun and unexpected.
Let me save
Barbarian.
you from the dark hole that is the future of Disney and remind you about something we have right now in our hands. We've been able to put our eyeballs on the first 3 episodes of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
I didn't know we were doing these this episode. I'm excited to talk.
What are your thoughts then, Jahan? Why don't you kick it off? You've seen all 3. I've seen all 3.
Oh.
Drew has seen all 3. So we're all tied for first place.
So, there's a lot of that beginning of a show, getting to know you in the first episode.
You gotta set up some exposition, right?
A lot of exposition. The second episode, a little bit more, but some story movement. Third episode, I felt things really started to take off with the story events. So far, I like it. It's fun because, I have some Tolkien knowledge. I'm not one of those historians or anything like that. I don't know. I didn't read the Silmarillion. I tried. It's a hard read.
I've heard that it's a tough one.
It reads like the Bible. It's like scripture. And it kind of is scripture. Just based on the Middle Earth and that kind of lore. But from the video games, from the cartoons, from everything I've ever seen, from the books I have read, I know a bit. And the lore that they're putting in, they're sprinkling around right now. I'm pretty excited about where it's going. They really are, I keep forgetting the rings aren't a thing yet. I keep forgetting that someone's gonna make them in front of us. I'm very excited for that. So far, so good. No real complaints, but it's funny. Me and my mom, we were watching, I think it was the first episode. We're like, man, everyone's really ugly. There's no good looking people. All the way up until you get to that village with the elf and his human woman that he's in love with. And it's the first 2 hot people in the entire show. Everyone else is just so damn pug ugly. But yeah,
on your review of the show, I couldn't disagree more. I thought the first episode, of course, it set up exposition. I thought it was kind of cool. And then the second episode, I was like, oh, but yeah, I'm in. There's this Elrond goes to the Dwarven Kingdoms. The Dwarven Kingdoms.
Oh, that was so cool.
Underground, subterranean, waterfalls, jungle, bridges, elevators. They have this awesome dwarven, hit a stone until you can't constitution battle, which all of that stuff to me is so, classic fantasy. And that's the kind of stuff that Lord of the Rings can have that Game of Thrones doesn't have. And that's that kind of fun stuff I signed up to see. The first episode, seeing Galadriel take down the mountain troll or the snow troll was awesome. That's what I'm there to see, this band of elves just tearing stuff up. But then at the third episode, we've totally taken these back steps where her entire elf army is gone. She doesn't have those cool characters anymore. They're still introducing new characters, new human characters, and more, contingent storylines we're going to have to pay attention to. Gandalf or Saruman, but most certainly Gandalf has already been introduced. He's just sitting there. We all know it's Gandalf. Can we do something with this plot instead of following and introducing 4 more characters? Let's go with the stories we've got. There's some really cool stuff there, but I honestly feel like every episode might make this show a little bit worse than the way it started. We're only 3 in.
Only 3 in.
It's early to call it, but I liked I liked 1 and 2, and 3 was a whole lot of lip flapping.
What about you, Drew?
I think, and this isn't the first time that this has happened, where I kind of fall somewhere in the middle of both of you, because I kind of agree with Gary in the sense that I thought the first episode was pretty solid. I thought the second episode was really good, and then to me the third episode took a step back, but I'm probably not as negative on the third one as Gary. But I knew as soon as I went to watch the third one and I saw 70 minutes, I went, oh boy, let's try this. But it's a lot of setting the stage. I think that every episode has had at least one set piece or storyline that I'm like particularly interested in. Gary touched on the Dwarven City in the second episode, which that's really the first big, other than some of the characters. Obviously, you've got Galadriel and Elrond, but Khazad-dûm was the setting of that, and that's we know that's the Mines of Moria. That's the setting for that spot in the Fellowship of the Ring, and all we've seen on screen are the ruins of Khazad-dûm and what it becomes. So to see it in its heyday, when it's operating at full force, and how beautiful it was, and how these dwarves operate, I thought that was incredible. Like, that's the type of stuff that I'm here for, that I want to see, and that kind of lore I thought was really cool. But yeah, it's just there's a lot of characters being introduced. There's a lot. I don't. It's what happens in these high fantasy shows when they start out. It's a lot of characters with weird names that I can't remember, and I'm trying to kind of keep track.
I couldn't agree with y'all's dwarf stronghold bit enough. It was awesome.
I love the dwarves, and they're like Lord of the Rings dwarves instead of Hobbit dwarves.
We got to see their ladies.
I loved them. We got to see dwarven ladies. We got to see dwarves in awesome armor with their beards sticking out from underneath the armor. Even though dwarves and halflings are both small people, you could tell the difference from a mile away of what a dwarf is versus a halfling. I thought they did a great job with the halflings, with their makeup being so cheery and their cheeks being so bright, the acorns in the hair, and all the nature-inspired clothing.
You like the halflings?
Love the halflings.
I did not think you were going to. I also really enjoy the nomadic beginnings of the halflings.
The Harfoots.
The Harfoots, yeah, it's really cool. Before they found their safety in the Shire, they're secretive nomads, which is really cool and interesting. And also, so you said that's Gandalf. Do you know that?
It could be Saruman, right? But
see,
it's Gandalf.
I thought it might be a wizard. I wasn't sure which one, but it also might not be. I'm
with you, Jahan. I hadn't put that maybe it was Gandalf, but I thought, a wizard of some sort.
It could be one of the two they don't talk about, too.
Guys, come on. Don't you know that there's only 2 blue wizards, 1 brown wizard, 1 gray wizard, and 1 white wizard on Middle-earth at any time?
Yeah.
And that's why Gandalf becoming Gandalf the White was such a big pivotal moment, because Saruman was already the White, so Gandalf becoming the White is, like, impossible. He became, like, a living god, you guys?
Yeah, it could be one of the blues.
But it's not, because the blues are twins.
The blues are twins? Okay.
Yep, and it's not Radagast.
But as far as I know, Gandalf was not around for the forging of the rings.
Gandalf is like thousands of years old.
Yeah, that's fair.
Remember,
I mean, because they're not human.
Not people,
yeah,
right?
they're angels, essentially.
It's not a human wizard who went to a college to learn how to read books and cast magic.
What do they call it? Valinor or something?
Yes, they have a set number of wizards, and they're basically angels.
Yeah.
They're sort of a living god's tool on the planet.
For anyone listening that didn't know that, that's fine. It's okay that you didn't know that. They don't talk about it in any of the movies, really.
They don't.
But
they literally never talk about the 2 blue wizards. But this is Gandalf. I'll put money on this as Gandalf.
And you also might notice, for those of you who don't know a lot, Morgoth, the one they keep talking about, is essentially Satan. All right, instead, just think Satan, you got it. It's not too bad, but yeah.
I thought they made it pretty clear that it was Gandalf, in my opinion, because he landed with the halflings. So it describes why he has that relationship with Bilbo and Frodo going into the future. One of the first things he did to interact with them was play with the fireflies and see that, and he was mesmerized by the sort of fireworks they had. And we all know Gandalf has his love for fireworks. And so to me, you're seeing all these really obvious intro signs to this is the Gandalf you know and love.
It very well might be.
Yeah, that's to me, that's the way I'm reading it.
I also thought it could be, but I was like, would they just put? I don't know, man. Like, it's a chance to show other characters, but it is cool in these like long-lived characters to see them in the beginning. That's kind of actually another funny thing. So they're doing all these really fast forwards where it's like Galadriel, then it's like 500 years later, 1,000 years later, and like they're doing all like that. But then they introduce a halfling character and some humans. And I'm like, oh, I guess they're done fast forwarding because if they do it one more time,
right.
They all die. So I guess
now
this
you have
is
to slam the brakes on the timeline.
once they started introducing mortals, I was like, oh, okay, this is the time we're doing things.
I'm so glad you said that. That reminds me of the conversation Elrond had with Balin. And I loved that. Why is Balin pissed off at his friend? Why Elrond can't figure it out? Because elves are thousands of years old. And it's been 30 years, and he missed Balin's marriage, and he missed him having kids, and he missed all of their events. So no wonder Balin's pissed off. Dwarves live like maybe 200 years.
Yeah, Elrond's like,
So,
oh, my bad, I was reading.
Yeah, right? You just missed like a tenth of his life because you were at a meeting. So I totally get it. And I thought that was a cool thing to make sure that they put back into the plot to remind you, how old these characters are and what kind of different restraints that puts on friendships. I always thought that was a cool part of these fantasy races, is that some live thousands of years, so they interact differently.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much cool stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Drew. You haven't gotten to say anything in a minute.
Well, I was just going to say one thing also with this show, just from a production standpoint, that's been talked about a lot before it was even released, was the budget, how much Amazon spent on this show. But I'll say, in my opinion, watching it, every dollar of that is shown on screen. I mean,
it looks good.
It all looks really good. There is a lot of CG in the show, but I feel like the CG does look really good, and any practical effects or location shots they do have been, to me, looks really pretty. And Amazon streaming service for me in the past has been hit and miss, and I feel like this has looked really clear and good, and maybe that's just my setup, I don't know.
I agree with you, and I really I've noticed that some of the sets are awesome.
Excellent. Yeah.
They've done a lot of great work on the sets, except for Back to the Halflings. Some of the stuff that the halflings are wearing and around their village just looks like fake plastic plants. There's a lot of fake-looking material in their camp. But other than the halflings, I think you're right. It looks really good, and they did a lot of great attention to detail. A lot with the elven weapons, right? And the elven clothes are super, super clean and intricate.
Armor and weapons are fire. For sure.
As much as I liked the way the halflings look, like the acorns in the hair, some of them look like plastic acorns that you got from Hobby Lobby. So, there is that.
Maybe that person has a nut allergy.
Oh, the orcs. That first
And literally
scene.
what I was about to jump into also. Love them.
Oh, talk about that first scene with the orc
It
coming
was
up out of the
good.
floorboards.
It was good. I loved, there was one orc. It was a near-death experience for two people. A single orc, just kind of show... They started them off at this high level of badassery where they can one-on-one kill pretty much any person. And then, they luck out. She takes his head, and then they finally believe her, that kind of thing. Yeah, the orc was dope. And the sword, I thought was really cool. That whole sword thing, where he finds... the evil sword, and he accidentally cuts himself and it drinks his blood and forms a blade out of fire and ash and stuff. That was dope.
That was super dope.
Although
Yeah,
good.
I was going to say I loved that the orc, the first time you see them, was shot like a horror scene. It really establishes a different kind of orc.
Exactly.
These ones aren't cannon fodder, right? These ones can kill you and your kid.
It was an extremely tense scene, and I was just going to say I'm very happy that they, are continuing the legacy from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and that the orcs are all practical makeup and everything, because they look so good. They look just like they did, continuity-wise from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and just every time that the orcs and goblins are on screen, I'm typically invested in the show.
Yeah.
So it looked to me like they elongated the torsos and the fangs with the orcs. And so they made them a little more gangly and a little more terrifying, but they did, like you said, they kept those same practical effects and a lot of the same tones and muscle. So it's something really familiar that they were able to just stretch a little bit and make it terrifying. In episode 3, when all the elves are
the
slaves
pit.
that are building
Yeah.
trenches for more slave pits. To me, that's so quintessentially orky, right? You're on the chain digging your own slave pit, where you're just watching everyone get abused all the way until you're in the clear, just working in the sun all day and night. It's horrible. Instantly, the orcs are terrible. They're terrifying. They have this subterranean complex that goes God only knows how far. They've got some kind of dark leadership. They're looking for that blade, I think.
What's his name?
The
Agar?
orcs-
Something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was, the orcs are just it, man. They're it 100.
Yeah,
And,
I forgot
the
about
sunlight
that.
allergy, it was sick. Knocking down the tents over the slave pits and all of the orcs dropping the chains.
And they're all
loved-
they're all sizzling. Yeah.
I loved the use of the environment to fight the army of orcs.
Yeah, I loved when they sucked the warg on him. That was pretty tense. And then
The warg was kind of funny looking, though.
he was
Like,
funny looking. He looked like he had like a little chihuahua.
Chihuahua! Right?
Yeah, he
Yes!
has like a little chihuahua mix in there.
Yeah, it was. I looked at Annie and I was like, I wish it had more hyena. And then I watched it move around and I was like, you know what? I think I like it.
I
It has
think I
enough
liked it
hyena.
too. It was
Hyena chihuahua.
it was just this mongrelly, shitty looking, malformed thing. It was great. And then I forgot about the reveal at the end. They do show the Agar or whatever his name is at the end, but like it's blurry. But he doesn't look like an orc.
He's a human, man.
Yeah, he's a human. Or it's really cool hearing all this stuff about like how the Southlands pledged their loyalty to Morgoth, and their blood oath is to all that stuff is really cool. And then at the end of the episode, when I finally started realizing what was happening, because I didn't realize what the plot was going to be here, even though I should have. They're literally creating Mordor right before our eyes, and it was, man, when that was revealed to me, I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, this is it. I'm all in.
And one thing that I can appreciate, because this is something I complained about a lot with when I was talking about Stranger Things season 4, is how, if you don't have anything for some characters to do, you don't have to show them. And I like that Rings of Power has already, taken that advice, in the sense that there were a lot of characters, like Elrond wasn't in the 3rd episode at all, and all the storyline with him, which is fine for that to take a back seat, which I'm under the impression that he's gone to the dwarves asking for help because they're wanting to build the forges where they'll
biggest
actually create the
forge.
rings. Is that what they're going to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
But they
That's
haven't.
what I
He hasn't mentioned the rings yet. All that's happened is he said, "I need to build these towers to forge something of great power."
Yeah, so they
And
need
it makes
the dwarves
sense.
help to build the world's biggest forge ever made. And so, yeah, like you said, he went to do it. We know he's doing it, and that's fine. We know what he's up to. We don't have to check back in with him yet.
And it sounds like, not to get into all the details of the show, because I don't feel like we have to go into every detail, but
I would love
guess-
to, though.
I know. But I got the impression that Khazad-dûm was built pretty quickly by the dwarves. Like, it seems like that's a pretty thriving place that maybe they put together pretty fast, which just shows how fast the dwarves work and why they're necessary to create the forges. Is that the
I
right
think
assumption?
the elves might have helped them start it, and then in the 30-year span of Elrod's absence, they thrived. I think that's what happened.
And then I'll say about the 3rd episode, as we mentioned, some of those storylines aren't featured here, which is fine. But the problem for me is that a big focus of this episode was everything going on in, I believe it's pronounced Numenor, which this is Galadriel's
Yes,
storyline.
Numenor.
Which for me was the least interesting part of the whole episode, and it's where most of the focus was. And I know that Isildur is introduced as part of this storyline, which, if you know Lord of the Rings lore and the One Ring, everything, he's a very key critical figure.
Yes, very
and
important.
I just kind of like
He's titular.
his introduction here was like lackluster and lackluster and just, I don't know, for such a big character he seemed almost unimportant. And I know we have
He
to get to
did.
know him still, but
He did.
it was kind of one of those things where I was starting to lose interest, or wasn't paying close attention, and then I heard Isildur and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
I know that name.
That's a huge name.
Perked up.
I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, do you know who that is? She's like, no, I don't know. But if you don't know...
First king of men.
He's the one that cuts the ring from Sauron's hand. That's Isildur. He's the one that fails to throw it into Mount Doom and starts the events that lead us to the movies. Blah, blah, blah. It's his fault, essentially. But, so yeah, I mean, before he becomes that guy, he's not really important until he does that. You know what I mean? His dad is, I think, the more important one, because he is a king? I'm not sure.
So his daddy is the king, and then the water levels will rise, and that island will have to be vacated. And Isildur unites the humans and is the one to cut the ring from Sauron.
Yes.
So I think he's also the grandfather of Aragorn.
He is. Yeah, he is. Isildur's heir is Aragorn, because the Numenor is also important because this is the home of the Dunedain. The Dunedain have the blood of the Eldars, so they are humans that can live to be hundreds of years old, much like Aragorn can. Aragorn, I believe in the movies, he's 70 seems too young. I think he's like maybe a couple hundred years old already at that point. But yeah, the Dunedain come from Numenor. Blah, blah, blah.
You're making up words at this point.
I am not. But so one of the names I was curious if either of you recognize is Celebrimbor. That is a name you did recognize it. Okay, cool.
Yes.
He, for those of you who don't know, is the wraith that you cohabitate your body with in Shadow of Mordor.
Cool.
Yeah, that's Celebrimbor, and in that game you discover that he was integral in the forging of the rings. He was deceived by Sauron to create the One Ring. Blah blah blah. Like, it's really cool. I don't know, man. It's got all the good stuff in it, and I love it, and I want it. I want to eat it and put it in my body.
I also want to eat it and put it in my body.
So far, so good, man. The Rings of Power, to me, seems to be faithful.
Galadriel was more arcane and less warrior. She is badass, so no complaints. I just, in my imagining of Galadriel, she was less warrior and much more mystic.
Well, I think at some point during her journey, she becomes like a lesser god. So I think that's when that happens, but I don't really know.
Maybe we'll see that journey. Maybe you're right. And if that's the case, that's fine. But we're only 3 episodes in, and I'm kind of missing that part of her. But maybe we'll get there.
It's fair. Yeah, she's very, I don't know, she's so young. It's funny, relatively speaking. And then, I forgot that scene in the tower with the troll was fire. You guys were talking about that earlier. I meant to say something. That was great. She soloed a troll, like, in seconds, because she's a badass.
I wish there was a dwarf main character. I'm not sure if Balin is going to stay around or if he was just a plot device. It doesn't seem like he's getting ready to go adventure, but maybe he will. Also, Balin is somebody's father from The Hobbit.
Balin? Wait, which one's Balin?
Balin is Elrond's friend. He's the prince. Prince Balin.
Is his name Balin?
I think so.
Because they called him Durin. His name's Durin, isn't
Durin.
it? Yeah.
Durin.
Yeah, the line of Durin is the house that the dwarves from the Lonely Mountain hail from in The Hobbit. What's his name? Oakenshield. Oakenshield is of the line of Durin. And as the Pale Orc is trying...
Thorin Oakenshield.
Thorin Oakenshield, yeah. The Pale Orc is trying to wipe out the blood of Durin. And at that point, Oakenshield is the last of it. So, him and his family. Just FYI, that's who that... Durin is like... I don't know, man. He's like up there with like Mordenkainen in friggin' D&D. Like, he's like practically the progenitor of like modern dwarves. He's a big name.
Looks like Durin, the current king of the Dwarven city is Durin the Third, and Durin the Fourth is the prince that was featured.
Okay, cool. So he's not the actual main Durin. That makes sense, because he did seem like it wasn't what I was expecting. When I was like, oh, that's the creator of, like, that's like the main dwarf. It's like they're Adam essentially. But yeah, that's who that is.
Well, for a second, because it sounds like, just based on how much we're into this, and despite varying levels of interest for the third episode or where we're at, it sounds like we're still in the realm of, certifying this fresh out the box. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say this is in the realm of freshness for sure.
The only thing,
and I think
my only complaint, the kid that has the evil sword, right? So I've talked about this before on the podcast. He's kind of doing that thing I don't like, where it's like, oh, I'm an evil kid. I'm going to be a huge bitch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
I've met people in my life that are huge bitches, though.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's a thing that exists for sure.
Yeah, maybe he just is one.
Yeah.
It would take a real huge bitch to want to be like Sauron.
Yeah, it's true. Or
So,
a really cool guy.
the only other thing that I think was worth talking about was kind of the elephant in the room, or should I say the dragon in the room, with all this, is that, House of the Dragon is currently airing at the same time as this, so it's very easy to lump the two shows against each other, or, try to pit them against each other. However, having seen now the first 3 episodes of The Rings of Power, and having seen the first three episodes of House of the Dragon at this point, I think the two can coexist perfectly fine.
Apples and oranges, man. Apples and oranges.
They're both fantasy, but Lord of the Rings is a different brand of high fantasy than what Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon are. Is that fair?
Certainly, and it always has been, right? Game of Thrones is the R-rated political council sex and murder version, and Lord of the Rings is the dwarves, elves, orcs, your typical sort of high fantasy setting. That's not as far as Chronicles of Narnia. So yeah, there's definitely space for them to both exist. Well, I think there's also space to compare them both. They're coming on at the same time. The target demographic is roughly the same audience. They came out the same month. They're literally week-to-week releases. No one released a whole season at once. So they are battling. They're not battling over anything, because I'm watching them both. I don't have to split my focus.
Hell yeah, I'm watching them both.
And they come on different days. I think the difference for me is that I do kind of view House of the Dragon right now as appointment TV viewing. Like, I will clear my Sunday evening at 8 o'clock and sit down and watch it, and put my phone on silent, put it away, I don't check it, and I watch the show. And I think I know the first 2 episodes of Rings of Power came out a Thursday evening. Did the third episode come out at the same time?
No.
It came out later, but it did come out Thursday evening. It just came out an hour or 2 after.
Yes, so it came out, we're in Houston, so it came out 11 our time. So I couldn't watch it the night of. I had to watch it Friday.
Which I kind of forgot Friday, to be honest. Like, I forgot. Oh, and then I realized, and I thought, I need to watch the third episode for the podcast. So I actually just watched it.
I was hella bummed.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's just House of the Dragon just has the advantage in the sense of, even though it's a spin-off and it's its own thing, there's so much that has been set up in Game of Thrones that make House of the Dragon easy to watch, because you already understand the world and the things in it, and these characters have been mentioned, or you have a good grasp of everything pretty early on. So I feel like
has all that same stuff, though.
It does, but I just feel like for some reason it's a little harder for me to get super, super invested in it. Like, I feel like there's still just a lot of setup. But having said that, our conversation here on the podcast today has kind of brought me back into Rings of Power. Like,
nice.
More so. I almost feel more positive on it after this conversation than I was going into it.
So if I would have watched the first episode of Game of Thrones and then the first episode of Ring of Power, I would have told you I like Ring of Power more. And then after the second episode of both, I would have told you I like Ring of Power more. After the third episode of both, I would say Game of Thrones has got something. I like Game of Thrones more.
Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon.
For House of the Dragon was nuts.
It's mind-blowingly good. It is. I don't understand where this come from. Like, it's so good. The story is cool. The crab feeder was cool. The what happened to the crab feeder was pretty baller. That whole scene was bananas. I mean,
You're right, guys. It is really nice to see new stories in established worlds and franchises that don't feel like a bunch of poo-poo doo-doo, unlike a terrible new reskinned version of Pinocchio that's just complete dog shit.
yeah, see, you can still write good stuff. It's not over yet.
Don't
but
worry, Drew.
Disney just doesn't
Don't worry,
care.
Drew. Disney is listening, and they're gonna make a Mufasa prequel for you. Since you like prequels that mention other characters, they're making a Lion King for you.
Do a different animal in a different place. I don't know what you're doing. We don't need Mufasa. What about, an Indian bagel tiger or something? I don't know.
No, let's use the same Skywalker family over and over and over in this giant world.
And then at the end of the movie detailing their saga, it would be like, was she? I don't know. How does it work?
Disney, if you are listening,
They are.
Always. I'm a big fan of your history and your past
Give
product.
us money.
But right now, just do better. You can do better. You can
Yeah.
afford better. You can
Yeah.
do better.
I mean, I'm wearing a Kylo Ren shirt right now, so...
Bro, they didn't even pay Bill Hader to be in the movie,
Bro, they offered him $100,000. That's a slap in the face.
Apparently, so that's that's attributed to Matt Bellany for Puck News, who wrote about that, and apparently his investigation into the pay rates. Apparently, Disney Animation has been paying a lot lower for a lot of its talent. In one of his recent articles, he said that even Andy Samberg and John Mulaney were paid super small salary, a small amount for doing the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie. But the big reason why those two stars did that movie was as a favor to Akiva Schaffer, who directed the movie, who's a longtime friend of Andy Samberg's, obviously.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, it's
They have all
that's
the
a whole
money.
other can of worms.
Stop lowballing people. What are you doing? But yeah, man, that was fun.
Yeah, that was great.
Did you get all the rants out your pants, Drew?
I think so. I feel good about it now, guys. I was feeling kind of heated and down going into this. Now I feel good.
You were distraught when we started. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's it for this week. Some D23. Let us know what you think on Twitter. Hashtag rants in your pants.
Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Hashtag Pinocchio22 at Drew Munhausen.
Yeah, do that one. Either way, I don't care. Let us know what you think. Oh yeah, I guess one more piece of business we should probably get to while it's still fresh. I do believe we did, speaking of Marvel, we did a draft, if I'm not mistaken. Do you guys remember that?
I don't want to talk about this. I think you rigged the
people voted on it.
voting.
People voted.
I took it to the internet.
And yeah, we have a winner. It was not an ambiguous win either. It was me. I win. So
I lost.
What do you want a cookie or something?
Drew's
What do you
just
want?
so upset. I can't even be happy with my victory.
I've had tons of people approach me, walk up to me on the street, and they said, "Drew, I would have voted for you, but the polls were already closed when I tried to go vote."
Wow. You know what they said to me?
Should we
They
redo
said-
the vote?
They said, you have the worst Marvel lineup, and then they evicted me from my house, and I got fired from my job. So I'm glad things have been so hard for you, Drew.
But yeah, so I'm the preliminary winner of the
We've
MCU
got
draft.
some good
So-
feedback. We might have to do some more drafts like that.
Yeah, I like the draft a lot. I don't know what it is, but on TikTok I've been seeing people doing all kinds of drafts. Like I saw someone do cereal. I saw people doing like video. I don't know, man. It
It's
was
fantasy
weird.
football season.
Oh, is that what it is? People need
Yeah.
to get their itch scratched.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my dad can beat up your dad. All right,
It's me, Casualty, CDG, and I'll see you on the next episode of Fresh Out the Podcast.
And I am at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. And thank you so much for joining us on episode 62 of Fresh on the Podcast.
I was Johanan, I think. Bye. Stay fresh.
Fresh out the box. Fresh out the box.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to episode 63 of Fresh Out the Podcast. I am a professional podcaster, Johananon.
It's me, Casualty, CDG. I am your best friend's angry friend.
And I am the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen. It is very difficult to follow Gary with intros sometimes, because Gary likes to end it with something where I think that there's more coming, then he just stops.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's just talking to me, though.
That's true.
Yeah, he did it right there. He did it right there. Masterful, sir. Masterful. Hats off.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Do you know what episode of the show this is, Gary?
Yes, this is episode 63, which is an important number in my life. I don't believe in numerology and all that because it's dumb and I'm bad at numbers. But let's just say, like, if I go to the burger place, right, they give me a thing. They give me, your number's going to be 63 when your burger's ready. And I'm like, oh shit, that's that number again. When I was playing football in junior high, they were like, your number's going to be 63 because my coach is the same guy who works at the burger place. So 60, and there was a highway one time. We were lost, right? We were driving. We were in Oklahoma coming down, and we were like, look right there. It's exit like 263, and it's Gary Highway. We were like, shit, no, that's crazy. Look, it's a 63 Gary again. But, I don't know, numerology doesn't matter.
See, those are way better coincidences.
It's a number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's my number.
When I was watching the rehearsal, that guy in like the second episode made me want to rip my eyes out. Like,
so that's why I hate
so
number people like that, because they try to look for patterns and they start creating all these different things to try to justify the numbers that they're seeing. And I'm not that way, right? 63 is a number that has appeared a lot throughout my life, so much so that I took notice of that number. So yeah, that's my number. That's it, man.
I hate it the most when it's about time. Like, it's like, look, it's 44 again. It's like, yep, every hour it happens.
And every minute it's going to be the 44th second. Yeah, you have fun with that infinite loop, asshole.
It's so dumb. But yeah, sorry if you're into numerology. There are varying degrees.
If you're into numerology, and I mean way into numerology, seek help.
Yeah.
So, on a completely different note than numerology, last week I got a little bit heated talking about D23 and the Disney machine and the stuff that they're cranking out. However, we have, from a film standpoint, entered into my favorite season of theater going and filmmaking of the year, and that is, we're in the early festival season, and we are getting into awards season. And you all know how much I like to talk about the Academy Awards, the Oscars, and all the other award shows that lead up to that. And with how many bad movies there have been recently, I finally have seen a couple good ones, and a lot of the news coming out of the festival circuit have talked about some positive movies. So I'm getting excited. Actually, as we speak right now, which, by the time this episode comes out next week, audio-wise, this will be kind of old news. But all the critics at Toronto International Film Festival just saw Glass Onion, the new Knives Out movie, the sequel, and the reviews are overwhelmingly positive.
That's surprising and exciting.
That it's better than the first one, that it's bigger, it's better in every way, and they're hoping that Netflix does some sort of theatrical release for it, because the best way to see it is in a theater full of people. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But Glass Onion gets rave reviews already, and the next movie they're all about to go see is The Fabelmans, which is the new Spielberg movie. So there's some fun stuff happening.
Were you a fan of Knives Out, Gary?
I actually forgot.
You forgot if you liked it or not? Interesting.
Yeah, I know that I've seen it, and I've seen it this year. But action movies sort of just go in one eye and out the other for me.
It's not an action movie.
Then
it's more of a whodunit.
It's a whodunit.
I'm not sure if I've seen it. I think I have.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think I have. I'm really.
It's got Ana de Armas and.
I don't know who that is anymore. I don't know that name.
And then Daniel Craig. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Bond. No, so I didn't see that. I didn't see James Bond and Chad's mom from True Lies in a movie together. I did not see that.
What a good description.
Wow.
No,
interesting.
It's really good, Gary. You should watch it.
You should watch it. It's a very good movie. And then, so I was worried.
The Netflix machine, is that what you guys are telling me?
The sequel.
The first film was theatrically released. It was Rian Johnson's movie that he followed up. He directed that he followed up. What's the second Star Wars movie called? The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
he followed up The Last Jedi with, and it's kind of his passion project that he wrote and directed. And then after the first one, Netflix picked up the second and third films. So they gave Rian Johnson a big payday for them to be able to distribute Knives Out 2 and 3. And so Glass Onion, a Knives Out story, is the sequel, but it's like an anthology series. It's a whole new mystery with a whole new ensemble cast. This one's got Dave Bautista, Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, Janelle Monáe.
It looks really good.
I like all those people you named. The ones whose names I knew.
Is Daniel Craig not in it this time?
No, Daniel Craig is still
so he's like a continuation.
Hercule Poirot type figure. Catherine Hahn is also in it. Leslie Odom Jr.
There's a
bunch of people in it.
Yeah, I was worried about this one because I love Knives Out. I thought it was really good. Sequels to these kinds of things, they could go either way. I'm glad that you're saying what you're saying. The trailer looks good, and the fact that it was going straight to Netflix just kind of concerned me, as it usually can be an issue. But sounds like it's on track to be badass, so I can't wait to see it.
Sounds like it's a big crowd pleaser, so it'll be interesting to see if they do some sort of theatrical release for it. It's not the first time they've done it. They've done limited releases for things like The Irishman, and even The Gray Man just recently did. But hopefully maybe something a little wider. We'll see. So that's that. The Venice Film Festival just took place, and that is just this film festival where a movie's success is based off of how long of a standing ovation it gets at the end. I don't know when this all started. It's the craziest thing, but they'll be like, this movie just got an 8-minute standing ovation, and that is how you know that it was really good or not. Oh, but this movie only got a 3-minute standing ovation. So it means that's good.
The Whale got like a 9-minute one, right?
The Whale is getting some pretty positive reviews. It's a new Darren Aronofsky film starring Brendan Fraser. But a lot of the reviews for that are that the movie itself is just, is pretty good, but Brendan Fraser's performance is getting universal praise from everyone. So it sounds like in the mix of the Oscar race, like Brendan Fraser's probably in the conversation. Who else is in there? There's early talks of even somebody like Austin Butler from Elvis movie. Best Actress is looking a little tougher because you got Olivia Colman in the new in a movie called Empire of Light, which is directed by Sam Mendes. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But it's just interesting. Then there's all the Don't Worry Darling drama, which that's a whole other thing, which many people have done lengthy podcasts about that, and the drama with Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde, Florence Pugh, and all that. That's a whole other saga. I won't get into all of that. Yeah, this is just, it's my favorite time, you guys. And I'm going to a film festival next week. I'm leaving for one, so there's going to be lots of exciting stuff coming out.
Make sure that after the movie's over, you stand up and clap at the credits for the appropriate amount of time.
Yeah. So you saw some movies.
I did. So yeah, that's all that to transition into, this is kind of our normal what we've been watching, what we've been up to kind of thing. And I actually get to see a film called The Woman King.
That's called The Queen, Drew.
Which is a really great movie, actually.
It looked really good.
This is in theaters at the time that this episode's dropping. It's in theaters now, and it's Viola Davis, and it also has Lashana Lynch, who was just recently in No Time to Die, the 007 movie, and she's in Captain Marvel, and she had a small part in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I don't think is a spoiler at this point to say anymore. I think we're past that.
Definitely. It's on Disney Plus.
John Boyega is also in this movie, but it's in the 1800s in a West African kingdom called Dahomey, and they have a all-female group of warriors called the Bagogie, who are just this incredible, just absolutely terrifying group of female warriors that are just really awesome. And it's about the defense of their home from some other colonies and slavers and things like that, which I went into this just kind of thinking okay, this is going to be a prestige drama. We'll see what it is. And the action in it was incredible. The dramatic moments hit. There's even some comedic moments in it that really work. Viola Davis is always great. Lashana Lynch is really, really good in this. It's just one that really caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. It was really great. It's directed by Gina Prince Westwood, who she just recently did. Jahan, I bet you saw this movie. She did The Old Guard on Netflix. Yeah. Did you watch that movie?
Oh yeah. Well, it was surprisingly good.
This is her follow-up to that. This is her next movie.
Interesting. The fighting in that movie was dope.
And so that I have actually not seen The Old Guard.
The Old Guard's dope.
Admit.
But have you seen The Old Guard?
That's what I heard at that time was how good the action was.
Old Guard. So long story short, Old Guard is a comic book about immortals that have to survive through time, and there are downsides of being immortal and blah blah blah, and it's a whole thing. It's pretty good.
That sounds pretty good.
Led by Charlize Theron. She's the main immortal person. It's a dope movie. Yeah, no, I've been following this movie too. Looking forward to seeing it. Because it's based on a true story, right?
Yes, I was just reading that. According to OprahDaily.com, it is based on a true story.
Because these women warriors are historical figures.
Yes, the origin of them is a little sketchy, depending on which century they came into being. But they were real. They did exist all the way up until 1858, at least.
Sick. Yeah, no. The first time I heard about them was in Lovecraft Country. One of the characters sends her soul through time and becomes one of them. So it's pretty cool.
Sick.
It was sick. It was sick as hell.
A lot of these movies, these big, kind of historic epics like Gladiator, Last of the Mohicans, which they have a good legacy, but when you watch those movies, they're really cool moments. Sometimes they drag. You just don't know what you're going to get. And this one, I don't know. It was just so well put together. It flowed well. The action was good. And in a movie where the action's really good, sometimes the performances on the dramatic side suffer, and you don't get that from this. All the performances are good. All the action is awesome. It's brutal. The story's good. I don't know. It's just good all around. John Boyega plays the king in this, the king of this village, so he, commands this army, or will send them out to do what's necessary. And he's really good in it too. I haven't really seen John Boyega in that much other than obviously the Star Wars sequel trilogy and things like that, but he is really good. I just wanted to give him a shout out in this, but he's definitely surpassed by all the great female performances in it, like Viola Davis and Lashana Lynch and others, but it was just nice to see him in something outside of Star Wars.
The only thing I've seen him outside of Star Wars was like Defend the Block or whatever, that like alien invasion movie.
I think it's Attack
the Block. It was actually not bad. It was watchable. Wasn't the best, but it was okay.
I forgot I watched a movie like that too. I'll add it to my list.
No, well, yeah, very good. So Certified Fresh, I assume, sounds
definitely so. I can't speak highly enough of it. I was just.
I think I have to say Certified Fresh out the box. I don't think we can stop.
Certified Fresh might be copyrighted.
Yeah, I think we have to say out the box. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was The Woman King. And then another movie that I wanted to shout out is called See How They Run. So this is also in theaters this weekend. And the thing about this is it's ironic that we opened the show kind of talking about Knives Out and the sequels, because when Knives Out came out in theaters in 2019, it kind of, I think, revived the whodunit for modern audiences a little bit. And so naturally, there's going to be some copycats or some new whodunits that come out. And this is just that. It's has a big, mostly British ensemble cast. But it is about a Agatha Christie play in London's West End in the 50s, early 50s, and a Hollywood director is brought in to adapt this play into a movie, and he wants to make a bunch of changes and so on, and so there's tensions.
It's pretty meta.
And then, of course, somebody dies.
It's pretty
and
meta.
then,
I like
and there's a lot of parallels between the play and who dies, and then who dies in quotes real life in the movie. But Sam Rockwell plays the detective that's brought in to help solve the case.
And Drew, this sounded like a snore fest until you said Sam Rockwell. I love Sam Rockwell.
I figured that might
and
be
Saoirse Ronan is like the deputy constable that's new and trying to prove herself and works with him.
She looks very top of the morning to you in the pictures I'm seeing here.
Adrian Brody actually plays the American director that's brought in to direct the movie, and
that's a good
David Oyelowo is in it. I can't ever pronounce his name correctly. But yeah, there's a lot of good people in this. And the movie, I would say, is okay. It's not as good as something like Knives Out, but the performances are good, and having Sam Rockwell and Saoirse Ronan in it, I think, elevate it because they are good. And there's a lot of style to it. Like, you can tell the director must be a fan of Wes Anderson movies or something, because there's a lot of kind of fun shots and quirkiness to it. They elevate it from what it could be.
I also like Adrian Brody, and isn't he one of those guys that's been in a Wes Anderson project or two?
Yes, he has. He's been in a lot of them.
So it's almost like, if you're shooting those kind of scenes and you pull him over, it almost gives you a little bit more of that flavor also.
And Adrian Brody's one of those people who's had a really weird career, because he won an Oscar, and then after that, it's like they couldn't figure out what to do with him. They tried to put him in action movies like King Kong and Predators that just didn't really work. And then he kind of, I feel like, thrived in Wes Anderson movies.
King Kong was almost good. And then Predators I liked. I like Predators.
He, though, Adrian Brody, is not an action star.
No.
But to your point, Drew, what he sort of resurfaced in for me was Winning Time.
Yes,
I know he's been in a lot more, right? But that's where he sort of popped back up, and he was good. And he had some really powerful scenes across from Jason Segel. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had some really great scenes together, and they really stole the show, and it was hard to do. That was a great show.
Yeah, like he's really good in character roles where he pops up. Like he's Pat Riley in Ding Time, and then he's got a good role in this, and it works. So I'm glad that he's out there because he's somebody that I didn't necessarily, hate to be harsh, but I didn't necessarily have like a super high opinion of him because of those action movies that I just didn't think he worked in. But seeing him in things like this and Winning Time, I like him. So I'm like, yeah, put him in more stuff like this.
I agree. I think he's a really powerful actor, and yeah, what do you put someone like that in? Because they're not good in an action movie. You don't need a powerful actor to steal the scene from a predator. That's not what that's about. Yeah, I'm glad they found somewhere to land him.
So it's just, I think that it's tough because this weekend, we're in a weird place theatrically where there's just not that much being released. It's really kind of a dead zone. But this weekend we've got 2 theatrical releases between this, See How, and between The Woman King. And of course, of the 2, if I had to recommend you go see one or the other, I would recommend you go see The Woman King. But See How They Run is solid enough. It's not the best, but if you like a good whodunit, you'll probably find something to enjoy here. Or if you're a fan of classic Agatha Christie type mysteries, you'll find something to like here.
What if I have to choose between Barbarian and The Woman King?
Oh, go see Barbarian. I loved Barbarian. It's so good. But The Woman King, if you're not into horror and you don't want to, deal with that, then definitely The Woman King. But for me, if I had to pick one over the other, I would choose Barbarian.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so that is See How They Run. And then I actually only have one other thing on my list for this week, and it is the movie called Respect, which I watched this because every week Apple TV or on the iTunes store, they do a 99-cent featured rental. And if you rent it for 99 cents, you have 30 days to watch it. Once you start it, there's a 48-hour window, but you have 30 days basically to start it. And so I rented it, and I finally was running out of time. I was like, I got to watch this movie. This was a Aretha Franklin biopic starring Jennifer Hudson that was kind of in the Oscar conversation last year. Jennifer Hudson was nominated for a Screen Actors Guild Award, but didn't get the Oscar nomination. But I went ahead and watched this, and it is as if a biopic machine turned out a biopic. Like, her performance in it is good, but I mean, there's just nothing new or original in this. Like, I guess if you really like Aretha Franklin, maybe you'll find something to like in this, but man, this was a bloated 2.5-hour biopic that just, was the most by the numbers biopic. I do not recommend it. I think that Jennifer Hudson's performance is good, but even I wouldn't seek it out for that unless you're just a really big fan of her. I like biopics, actually. I'm usually, even the boring ones, I'm usually pretty high on, and this one, even I could barely find anything to grasp onto. I just thought it was very slow and long and not enough cool. Even the big moment in the movie, like the big set piece moment, is where she's finally recording Respect. And even that moment, you're just kind of like, oh, I guess this is happening now. Here it is. And, it kind of lands with a whimper. So I do not necessarily recommend you go out of your way to see Respect unless you just really want an uninspired biopic starring Jennifer Hudson.
Damn.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, y'all.
Cold-blooded, Drew. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, well, hey, sounds like you watched some good movies. We'll move along to something that... Did you watch any movies, Gary?
Biopics. I did see a movie, but I was going to segue to biopics. There's a Mike Tyson show on Hulu right now. That's like a Mike Tyson biopic, episodical type of situation.
I've seen this on there. Have you watched this?
I have, yeah. We've watched every single episode. We waited for like 3 to come out before we got caught up because it's a weekly release. But it's only 6 parts, and I think 5 parts have been released already. So at the time of this recording, the whole set may be on Hulu, ready to go. It's the story of Mike Tyson, and they fast forward, but they show you his childhood, they show you his teenage years, and what it was like growing up in New York at that time. And then they get you to his 20s, and they really sort of focus on his 20s to 30s and what's going on in his career as his first trainer and father figure pass away and sort of leave him abandoned in this world of boxers. His actual family was not very influential to his life. They weren't really in the picture, and then they started to pass away as well. He lost his mom, he lost his sister, lost the only family he ever had, and then gets sort of sucked into Don King's boxer con man mentality. So it's about him getting used, about his failed marriage. It's a lot of behind the scenes Mike Tyson stuff. I love the portrayals of Tyson. The voice of Tyson is great. I'm gonna have to say, you guys might need to turn on the subtitles for it, because Mike Tyson is famously hard to understand, especially when he's having normal conversations with normal people, and he just is mumbling and turns and looks away from the camera. It's just Mike Tyson. It's great. There's some part of my mind that likes Mike Tyson. He was an icon growing up in the 90s, Iron Mike, what a heavyweight champ. But also, everyone knows that he's done his fair share of horrible stuff, and he's sort of a loose cannon. So I like to watch a biopic like this. I recommend it. I think a lot higher than Drew recommended. Respect.
Does Norm
Check this out, because that's a good review, and I feel like, especially if the actor nailed the voice, which you said that he does,
it's hard to do,
that's
man.
the key thing. If you're playing Mike Tyson, you got to get
the voice right.
And there's another thing too. When you first see him, he's like playing the 50-year-old version of Mike Tyson on a live stage in front of a live audience, like he's doing the HBO special. It's told from that perspective. So the first time you see him, you're like, I don't think he's the guy, because he's got like weird age makeup on. But then like halfway into the first episode, they finally show him in a boxing ring when he's like 17 or 18, and you're just like, oh my god, that is the right guy. He's just in Mike Tyson shape, and he sounds like Tyson. He doesn't sound like old Mike Tyson or look like old Mike Tyson, but he doesn't need to. They just use it as a sort of a segue in the storytelling, which is a nice way for him to break the fourth wall too. The show's a lot of fun.
My only question is, does Norm Macdonald reprise his role as Pigeon?
Norm Macdonald is Pigeon. They do solve mysteries, as in Mike Tyson mysteries. That's all accurate. All of that actually happened. And on the movie front, before I get too far away from movies, I forgot I even watched this one. It almost didn't make the list. But I think when Drew was talking about movies that were just barely watchable, I was like, oh yeah, I watched a movie that was watchable. Samaritan. I love superhero movies and superhero shows and cartoons, and I'll watch anything with superheroes. I'll give it a shot. So Samaritan is led by Sylvester Stallone and the kid who plays Diego's son in season 3 of Umbrella Academy.
Right.
So that kid is going to be in a lot of stuff. We will end up learning his name. It'll probably stick with Drew before it sticks with the rest of us. But he's been an actor for like 2 years, and he's already got like 6 credits to his name. He's supposedly really easy to work with. He's really professional, and he's always ready to learn from everybody on set, and people really like him. The kid's fine in this movie. Sylvester Stallone is Sylvester Stallone. I mean, you're not going to get a great performance.
I'm going to come over there and I'm going to teach you a lesson.
The plot of the movie is like, this fits in the world of Kick-Ass really well. So Samaritan and Nemesis were 2 sworn enemies like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And it's almost like a Batman or Captain America type of hero. Like, he's enhanced, but he doesn't have like fire powers or anything. He can heal and he can beat people up. So Samaritan and Nemesis had a big standoff on a rooftop. Samaritan killed Nemesis, and then he threw his mask into the fire, and everyone thought Samaritan was dead. And this is like, 20, 30 years later. Oh no, Samaritan's not dead. It's Sylvester Stallone. He's an old guy on a bus, and he's going to save the kid from danger. Which, to me, is the old guy on a bus genre of movie. There's the Danny Trejo movie called like Passenger or something like that, where he's just an old guy on a bus who beats people up. Then there's the Clint Eastwood movie, Gran Torino, where it's just kind of an old angry guy on a bus who tries to save the neighborhood. This is Sylvester Stallone trying to do that with a superhero skin on it. It's not good, but it is watchable.
It's watchable? Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
I was tempted because I too like superheroes, and it did like kind of look like it had kick-assy vibes. That sort of, I don't know.
I want to be very clear with you. It is not good, but it is
Okay.
watchable.
I don't need a movie to be good to watch it. I just need it to be entertaining.
That's right. It's fine. You know, it's Sylvester Stallone's boring. When he's on the screen by himself, he's just not an exciting person to watch. His entire career has been him blowing crap up. So if crap's not blowing up, he's not very entertaining. That's it for my movies. I watched Mike on Hulu, so let me talk about another Hulu hit. I was preaching the Orville for months. Now, if you still got Hulu, I'm preaching Reservation Dogs. I talked about it last year when it was in its first season and they were still trying to find their footing. It's a Native American coming-of-age story. It's teenagers who are going through the rigors of what it's like to live on a reservation, but it's totally covered in comedy. It's got 3 scoops of comedy on top. Taika Waititi is an executive director or executive producer on this one, so there's some comedic flavor definitely sprinkled throughout that is really fresh and original. Particularly the ancestral Native American spirit guide is super funny.
He's very funny. He's even funnier in season 2. Yeah, I mentioned starting season 2, one of the episodes. I had only seen 2 episodes at that point. I believe 6 are out now. Pretty much all native casts in writing and like producing and directing. There's a bunch of natives involved in the actual show, and you could tell just by the love that's in it. Honestly, this last episode, man, Cheese is the man.
Yeah,
Cheese is just the man.
That's another thing I was going to say. In the first season, they tackle themes of depression and suicide, and in this season, they're dealing with loss of family and
abandonment.
Cheese. And now Cheese has come out as queer, and he's like doing his best to really kind of bring the neighborhood together and make sure everybody stops doing stupid gangster ass shit. So he's all about family and helping people see that family should come first for them. I mean, the show just has great values and great morals with some fantastic comedy sprinkled through it. Please watch Reservation Dogs. If you have Hulu, I'm sure you do, please watch it. It's in its second season. It's indie creators. It's a quirky comedy. There's just a lot to love in this show. You haven't seen this show before.
It's a good show. You should check it out. I agree.
You haven't
have you seen it, Drew?
It's not another show reskinned. You know what I mean? It's its own show.
Have you seen any Res Dogs, Drew?
Saw last year the pilot and liked it, and just at the time was not in the market for new TV shows. And
you don't watch a lot of shows. It's fair. You don't watch a lot of shows.
I've been watching a lot more recently, so this might be one that I decide to pick up. I've heard good things about season 2.
It's good.
Yes, season 2 is better than season 1. They definitely were trying to find their footing, and I was worried that there may not be a season 2. But I liked season 1 because I saw what they were trying to do. They found it in season 2. Definitely, they're kind of placing their feet and they're starting to run with it. But I still think that this is going to be a short season. And maybe next season we'll see what they're actually going to do as an overarching story. In season 2, they're dealing, like I said, this is sort of a coming-of-age thing, right? So they're dealing with Bear, the main character, is getting his first job. Cheese got removed from his housing placement because his uncle got arrested for growing weed. Alora was running away from home, and she came back because her grandma passed away. They've added a new friend to the group, but there's a lot of stress between her and another particular girl. And so they mix in all these elements of real life and being a teenager and growing up. And I always love those coming-of-age things, and I know you do too, Drew. And I just think that this particular story, the way it's told and the characters they use, I think you will like Reservation Dogs.
Certified fresh. Out of the box.
Certified fresh. Also on Hulu, I've been getting caught up with WWE. Ever since Stephanie McMahon took over, I decided that being a kid who grew up in the late 90s in the Attitude Era, it was of my most importance to do my research to see what Stephanie and Triple H would turn WWE into. One of the first things they did was change the rating to TV 14. Now everybody calls everybody a bitch, so that's exciting to see.
That is exciting.
Yeah, you finally all the wrestlers get to call each other a bitch. It's just already overused after like 3 weeks. They're bringing back a lot of talent, which is fun to see. They bringing back big stars like Braun Strowman. It was great to see him again. But he comes in and cheapens 4 tag teams at once as he just beats up an entire tag team fatal 4-way match. So it's more of the same. I mean, they're not doing anything too different over there. It's still wrestling. I like it. It was getting pretty bad. It was getting pretty stale.
I stopped watching for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I go through phases where wrestling's cool for like 2 years, and then I can't stomach it for like 4. So I'm back into WWE right now. It's the whole thing. I'm all caught up on Clash at the Castle. I can't believe that Sheamus and Drew McIntyre both lost while they were overseas in Wales. It was an awesome show, though. The fans in Cardiff, Wales lost their damn minds for Sheamus and for Drew McIntyre. It's like in Toronto whenever you go wrestle, and the Canadian wrestling fans are just way better than the American wrestling fans. It was like that. The Welsh fans were nuts. It was such a blast to see.
That's what happens when you don't have nacho cheese for blood.
That is true. So I'm all caught up on WWE. If you want to talk about it, at me. We could talk about WWE. The last show that I'm watching, this is a Netflixer, so you can get off of Hulu. You can go back over to Netflix now.
A Netflixer. We need to use that more often. If it's a Netflix show, it's a Netflixer.
Netflixer. Like that?
And this is a show for everyone. This is the Emmy award-winning Cobra Kai. Okay? Season 4 won an Emmy, Drew.
What was the Emmy award that it won? I'm actually unaware.
Best 80s remake.
Yeah. Best Cobra Kai series? Does it matter?
Most boards broken.
It's not best acting, I'll tell you that. But Cobra Kai Season 5 is out. It snuck out because all week, or for like 2 weeks, Netflix had Cobra Kai listed on the top of things that people are interested in, and I was like, why is this here? Nobody's watching this. Is Season 5 out yet? And I kept clicking it, and it wasn't. And then one day, all of a sudden, it was. So Season 5's out. Annie and I, that's my wife, we were watching Season 5. It's exactly like the rest of the seasons, except this one takes place in Mexico. So they've outsourced some of their actors, and they've gotten some telenovela actors, I think, who are really over the top. So acting is just not a thing in Season 5 of Cobra Kai. But it's not like it was a thing in any of the other seasons. If you've managed to make it 5 seasons into Cobra Kai, then you will still like this show, just like I do. I've gotten literally nothing to say. You know what this show is, right? It's Karate Kid, except they're all grown up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys should, I mean, I don't know. Should you check it out?
I'll probably watch it at some point. I don't know. I haven't gotten around to that one. It's not high on my list. But, I mean, you keep talking about it. It does sound good. And
Connor loves
you've
it.
been right in the past. So
And Connor's no fool.
yeah, Connor put me onto that show, Mo, also on Netflix, about a Palestinian Muslim living in Houston. And oh boy. So first off, I don't know how that guy sounds exactly like Seth Rogen. It was grating on me for a minute until I realized he sounds just like Seth Rogen. Blows my mind. And then another one of the guys that was sitting at the hookah bar, one of the old men, sounds exactly like George Carlin. Blew my mind. But that show's okay. Not sure how I feel about it. It doesn't feel... I've talked about representation before. These aren't my experiences being a Middle Eastern in Houston. They really lay on thick the Houston. Like they're talking about slabs. DJ Screw's like almost the only music they play. The dude gets addicted to lean, like literally like that. And I'm like, man, you're really like, you don't have to do all the Houston things in the first 3 episodes. You don't have to do, like, seriously, every Houston stereotype. Just check. They went to Funplex.
Oh, no way.
Funplex!
Yeah!
That's
They went to
out of
Funplex.
control.
He lives in A-Leaf, which is cool to see. I don't know, man. It's cool to see places you know and stuff, but Like, seriously, for anyone listening, if you're not from Houston, odds are a lot of stuff I'm saying is gibberish. But they just, man, if you're from Houston, they really do references a lot. And it's a little much, and it gets kind of silly at times. But it is watchable. We watched the first, 3 or 4 in a row, so it's a decent watch, for sure.
That's Mo. Is that on Netflix?
It's Mo. It's on Netflix. It deals with the themes of PTSD and, being a refugee and that kind of thing. And it has a lot of interesting stuff in it, for sure, but it has a lot of silly stuff, too. And the main character sounds just like Seth Rogen. To me, I don't know how.
What else you been watching, baby?
So the only other thing I really been watching, I've been watching my basic stuff in the background, like Community, blah blah blah. But the main thing that I've been looking forward to every week has been She-Hulk. I've really been enjoying this show. 4 episodes are out. It's on Disney Plus. The 3rd episode had me dying. The whole shtick with Megan Thee Stallion. Finding out stuff about it behind the scenes was really exciting. Apparently, the whole after credit scene where she gets to dance with Megan Thee Stallion is because the actress is a gigantic fan, and when she said "I would die for you," she meant it. It was pretty funny. I just think it was funny that guy thought he was dating Megan Thee Stallion. I did not expect her to be in the show after that. But she was, and it was great. I was laughing really hard at that whole episode. They finally started dropping some plot points in. People trying to steal her blood. And they apparently robbed an Asgardian construction crew, which I thought was really funny, too. But I don't know, man. It's TV. It's very TV. Very episodic. I liked... Wong's been in it, and they even make reference to how he's Twitter armor in every episode he's in, because they were, I guess, aware when they were making the show that they were going to get shit on by the masses. But the Wong showing up, that girl from, where's she from, Drew? Do you remember? Madison, spelt with a Y, but not where you think. That whole, she's just the worst person ever, and I imagine she's from Florida. But her and Wong's friendship blossoming, them watching The Sopranos.
You're ahead. I haven't seen this yet.
Oh no, okay, you haven't seen this one yet. Well, it's okay. Those aren't really spoilers. You'll see Madison with the Y, not where you think. And Wong is heavy in the 4th episode. So I won't talk too much about the 4th episode. It was really funny. There's a whole, she's on a dating app shtick going on. It's pretty funny. And she gets to do some cool superhero stuff. It's a good episode. I've been enjoying this one. It is the courtroom drama, and, the back room of the Marvel and the MCU kind of thing going on that I really enjoy. A lot of returning characters, that kind of thing. But you like the show so far, right, Drew?
I do, and I'm just behind because I haven't had a chance to watch the 4th one since it came out this past Thursday, because I have actually been watching this one with my wife. So I just, between The Rings of Power, and I've been to some movies here recently, some screenings and stuff, so I'm just a little behind.
It has been a busy couple of weeks.
I do plan to watch it. And I do like how just bite-sized the episodes feel. I watched 2 and 3 in one sitting, and it was they were both over in a flash. I think that I know Gary has some issues with the show, which, I can let him go into in a minute if he wants. But my thing with it is, this is going to sound almost like a criticism, but I don't mean it to be such. It does feel like it could fit into the lineup of a network TV, comedy.
It does.
It feels like it could fit alongside something like a Modern Family or like a Big Bang Theory or something, despite what your opinions may be on those shows. It feels like a network sitcom, which I think is what they were going for with it, with an MCU character. And so if you take a step back and don't look at it as this big piece of the MCU, which is something that a lot of people have a lot of stake in, I think it's a pretty solid, half-hour comedy, but it happens to have She-Hulk in it. And so as far as, like, light, easy-to-consume entertainment, I like it.
Yeah.
I think the comedy actually hits pretty well, and I think that's something that Gary has an issue with. Like, I actually find it to be kind of funny. I think the CG is a little to a lot rough at times, but for what it is, that doesn't really bother me very
CG's
much.
not the worst. Everything you said, I agree with. If look at it as a network television show, I would watch this every week for, like, season after season. Like, it entertains me. I find it enjoyable.
My wife and I dread this show, and I am happy to report that I will not be watching any more episodes.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys can just fill me in or whatever. I don't care, and I hate it. Like, the amount that I look forward to Sunday night to watching Game of Thrones, or even on Fridays whenever Lord of the Rings comes out. The amount that I disdain She-Hulk by comparison is insurmountable. I hate that show. It shouldn't exist. It's one of the worst things that Marvel has ever done, and I think that Disney should pull the plug on Marvel and pull the plug on Disney projects and just focus on Star Wars for a while. Because Fantastic Four is also going to be dog shit. We're not going to get anything good until the X-Men come around, and I am strapped in and prepared for like 15 more years of Marvel disappointment. She-Hulk, you're the cherry on top, and I'm done.
Luckily, I think Gary is kind of on an island for that one, for that very scorching hot take.
I think this show's pretty well received. There's the obvious faction of people that hate it, which, fuck those guys. But
yeah, they were gonna hate it.
They were gonna hate it no matter what.
But I would much rather people take the Gary approach. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
You don't like it, don't watch it.
Force yourself to watch it and then hate watch it and complain about each one. Just don't watch it. You don't have to watch it.
That's it.
You don't have to watch it.
I watched 3. I'm good. I tried. Watch the show. Give it your best effort. And if you don't like it, then shut the fuck up and watch something else.
Oh, man, but I think the 4th one's the best episode so far.
Yes, that may be true, but you also liked the other ones, and I didn't. So
I did.
Even if it were the best one, I still don't think it's going to be worth my. I don't think it's going to be worth the trip back to Disney Plus.
Megan Thee Stallion in the 3rd episode killed me, dude.
You know what else, Drew? Is Pinocchio happened on Disney Plus. So it's like, do I even want Disney Plus anymore? Like, if it wasn't for Star Wars, do I even want this damn app? They're on thin ice, buddy.
They also dropped, you can watch, if you haven't seen it somehow yet, Love and Thunder's finally on there. So, I've been thinking about giving that another watch, personally. But yeah,
I probably need to make sure that I didn't hate it.
I am interested to see what my second watch opinion of that one is. But yeah, She-Hulk so far, great, good stuff. If you're into that kind of thing. I've always been a fan of She-Hulk, so I'm not surprised. This is pretty much what I expected from the show.
And we talked about this before the show came out, right? Is how I wasn't a fan of the character, and I didn't like the books, and I didn't think I was going to like the show. So I gave it a fair effort, and it's exactly what I thought it was going to be, right? And it's not what I like in superhero shows. It's not what I'm looking for.
Fair enough. It's definitely not a typical superhero show. That just happens to be what I like about it.
I also don't like Harvey Birdman, attorney at law, or Bird Girl, attorney
You don't
at
like...
law.
Okay, if you don't like Harvey Birdman, that makes sense, because this is...
I love the idea of it.
This is a good show if you like Harvey Birdman.
It's such a good idea, and I just think it kind of falls flat.
I'm surprised you don't like Harvey Birdman.
I want to.
Did you get that thing that I sent you?
Get the thing that you sent.
Did you get that thing that I sent you?
Okay.
It's a Harvey
Birdman.
Birdman.
You want to talk about the games
joke
that you've played, Jahan?
It's a Harvey Birdman joke. Harvey Birdman, attorney at law. All right. So, yeah, that's all that we've been watching here on Fresh Out the Podcast. But I've been on a bit of a rampage when it comes to video games.
Look at all those games.
Yeah, 2 of those on that list I beat. So, I already talked a little bit about Spider-Man, a little bit about Cult of the Lamb. on the show. I have beaten both of those games now. So Cult of the Lamb, fantastic start to finish. That game's a lot of fun. I had like 25 followers at the end of the game. You get to fight, the one below it all. The boss fights are great. The management of your cult is a lot of fun. And like the side quests are really fun. Like there's a Midas in this Midas's kingdom. You can go there, and if you want to, you can sacrifice your followers to him, and he'll give you bits of trident that you can use to buy power-ups. And he turns them into gold statues. It's pretty good. But that game's really fun. It's hugely hyped, and I believe that they've said that they are going to do DLC. Very excited for that. If you haven't checked it out, check it out for sure. Absolutely 100% fresh out the box. Spider-Man. This game, if you have a PlayStation, this is old news. If you do not have a PlayStation, if you're a PC gamer specifically, because you can access this now, Spider-Man is available on Steam. You can get it right now. It is one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life. Before, when I talked about it, I hadn't gotten to the part where a thing happens. Fuck it. I mean, it's been out for a long time. The Sinister Six happens. And from that point on, the whole game changes. Some of the greatest boss fights I've ever had, one of them was Electro and the Vulture. Doing that fight is one of the greatest boss fights I have ever played through. Seriously, the game start to finish is fantastic. The end of the game actually made me cry. It really gets you. If you haven't played it, seriously, believe the hype. It is one of the best games ever made.
It made me feel like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I wasn't just playing a game. I was having fun. I was having Spider-Man fun. The way that you move around, the way you interact with the world, and then the boss fights are just so Spider-Man-y. And I know that may sound dumb, but as a guy who plays a ton of video games, the characters feel different. He feels quick. He feels agile. Your moves are exactly what you want them to be. The fighting styles you use, hanging on the sides of buildings and whipping people off. It's just such a non-stop fun game. I love that Spider-Man game.
And there's a lot of fun Easter eggs and that kind of thing, and you can unlock a lot of cool costumes. But my jaw dropped when I saw one of the ones I unlocked. It makes you cel-shaded, and then you look like an old-timey comic, but you just move through the regular world, and it looks really weird. But it unlocks a power. You can replace your useful power with the power to quip, which you kind of knock everybody mildly backwards, barely. Hardly does anything. But then you say something funny. Very classic Spider-Man. Good stuff. This version of the game comes with all the DLC. Miles Morales sold separately and only available on PlayStation, I believe. But seriously, one of the best games I ever played. I also bit the bullet because I've been enjoying all these PlayStation games so much. I got PlayStation Network on my PC, right? Having issues with the controller because you really need a PlayStation controller to enjoy them because you have to push that stupid button in the middle plate to do some stuff. And
touchpad button.
Yeah, so I started playing The Last of Us. You need the touchpad a little bit to kind of do stuff, but there's a way to get into the menu without it through the crafting menu.
Is this the original version of The Last of Us, or is this the brand new full ground up remake of The Last of Us?
I think this is the remaster that I'm playing.
Okay.
And
it literally just came out.
Whatever it is a PlayStation Classic. It has that above it, so it might be the original.
Oh, no, that's the original, though.
Okay. So I'm playing the original. It's on PlayStation Network, which is a monthly fee kind of thing. I paid for 3 months, and I'm going to see how I like it. And I have a controller on the way. But yeah, The Last of Us has one of the greatest outbreak sequences I've ever seen in a game. I haven't gotten to play it very much, but the beginning of the game's fire. It's very intense. Very emotional. It's hard. There are some hard moments very early on, and they continue. It's just a bunch of rock and a hard place situations. So far, I really like it. I like the story. I like the world building. I didn't realize that this was a zombie thing, but it is. And so, of course, I love it. So far, so good. It's a cool game. And I can definitely see what the hype was about. I can definitely see it.
I think The Last of Us translates really well to a movie or to a show. Just the way that the game is, it's directed really well. And there's a lot of great cinematography, cool shots, and cool camera angles.
So you're looking forward to the show?
Yeah, I think it really lends itself to that very well. And almost in a way where the show is bound to be worse than the game because the game was intended to be sort of like a movie or a show. It's already done in that vein.
Yeah.
Except for all the pushing dumpsters. You will find yourself pushing lots of dumpsters.
Lots of dumpster pushing. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. But yeah, it's a very fun game. Cool stealth elements, cool fights. The fights are not, if you run in and start shooting, you'll die. It's an interesting game, man. There's a lot of cool mechanics, and I am into it so far. But yeah, so I've been touching all these PlayStation classics. The other one I tried, this one I got stopped because of my controller. But Horizon Zero Dawn. So far, so good. I got to the part where you fight the Sawtooth, beat the Sawtooth. That was really cool. This game's interesting.
Is Forbidden West the sequel? Is that on PC yet, or is it just the first one that's on PC?
So the first one's on PC. Forbidden West, I don't think you can get yet. You might be able to, but this one, I got this on PlayStation Network as well. But you can buy it on Steam. I just had PlayStation Network, so I didn't feel like paying money for it again. But yeah, this one is very fun, very interesting. I didn't realize exactly what it was. I know nothing about the game. So it is one of those games where, like, this is post-civilization, like Ooh, or, one of those settings.
Much more story-focused than you would think for a game that's core gameplay is about giant robot dinosaurs.
Yes, the story is really solid. I have some issues with some of the casting, but I will talk about that now. I say if you haven't played Horizon, it's definitely worth the play. The hunting is dangerous and scary and fun, and the animals feel like living animals that will murder you. And they have this complex, like, society. I don't know. It's pretty cool. I like the whole, like, she found this device thing that lets her see special things kind of storyline. Yeah. I like that game. So I've been playing a lot of PlayStation games. I see what the hype is about. I have been missing out, being just an Xbox boy.
Yeah,
but
PlayStation has tons of great single-player adventure games. Way more than Xbox has.
Yeah.
But Xbox has a really good online community, and maybe not good, but they have a lot of good online games, right? Very active communities. Maybe good's not the right word. They're kind of toxic. Like any online community, I suppose.
Yeah.
I've got one game I've been playing, Jahan. We actually both took huge craps on it, so much so that you got yourself a refund.
I got a refund.
This game.
I got a refund.
Take it back, shove it up your ass, Volition.
Oh.
You said take Saints Row back. I said, let me keep going around. Let me keep messing around in Saints Row. I can, without a doubt, tell you the characters do not get any better.
I didn't think they would.
But I have solved this problem. What I do instead is put on Spotify so I don't have to listen to anything in the game. And then I just drive around and do missions. The further you go in the game, you unlock like business ventures, and each one of the business ventures has between like 5 and 12 side missions to do. Some of them you will remember, like the insurance fraud, where you just go limp in traffic and get launched by vehicles.
Oh, like, yeah, insurance scam missions, those are the best.
Yep. So the insurance mission scams make a comeback, which was really welcome news for me.
Those are the best.
Then there's some stuff that's not quite as fun. Like there's helicopter tow missions where you have to come in and pick something up with a helicopter magnet cable and fly it back across town while you're getting shot at. And then you have to do that 12 times, to complete the mission quest. So some of the things are a bit annoying and taxing. You just find yourself doing the same thing over and over. But, Jahan, my car is like a 1950s hot rod, and I put a tow cable on the back and nitrous, so I got to these tow missions where you had to tow different stuff. You had to, like, tow a boat, or tow a crate of fireworks, or tow an engine. And so I would just back up my own personal car and shoot the tow hook and just lead these absolutely insane Fast and Furious type car chases across town with fireworks blasting out of the back of my car. You know, people on the roof shooting at the bad guys. I unlocked all the skills. I hit max level. And the most important thing about hitting max level, I think is worth noting, is that it is not a diamond achievement. So that means that, like, over 10% of people who are playing Saints Row are maxing out. Other people besides me are enjoying it. It is not. There's not a great story and the characters are bad. But you can put on Spotify and have a great time driving around and wreaking havoc all across the world. So for what it's worth, I think maybe we went a little hard on Saints Row the first time. They have a co-op feature. The game did not. It was not a co-op game. It just had a co-op feature, and it felt bad to play it co-op. You could tell it was half-assed. Playing it by yourself and ignoring the story, it's an okay game.
You really polished that turd for us, Gary.
Look, man, I'm still not even prepared to say that it's certified fresh out the box, but I am prepared to say that it's fine.
Yeah, I would fight you on that. I hated every second of that game.
But you dropped out of it before the business ventures even started.
Yeah.
So you were still in the tutorial phase of the game.
Yeah.
And it was really bad. I'm no argument. It gets better.
I could just tell while you're talking about it and like trying to put a positive spin. Jahan just has that look of like, no, this is not good. I could see it.
I don't know, but like it's not, like I wanted to like the game. I'm a huge fan of the series all the way up until the most recent one. Like I liked every single one of them. The fourth one's ridiculous, but it was aware that it was ridiculous. This one, I don't know, man. They lost their clown powder, in my opinion. Or there's too much clown powder.
Yeah, you're right. There's an improper mixture of clown powder.
They don't have that Saints Row je ne sais quoi. It's not right.
No, they don't. But it is still a.
I believe you that it's a playable turd. I believe.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's still an action crime, whatever the hell they call that genre of game.
Yeah, there's a chance that I would go back to it if it was like way cheaper or free, but I am not dropping 60 bones on that.
I will be surprised if Saints Row doesn't come to Game Pass. I think it will. Because Agents of Mayhem did, and that other game did. Volition games go to Game Pass.
It's fair.
So yeah, I mean, a couple months, give it 6 months or less, I bet it'll be on Game Pass. And then what you should do is mute the characters, turn them down where you can't hear them, and then put on Spotify while you play this game.
A ringing endorsement.
I was about to say a rave review.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the people who made the game, who are listening to this, I like what you did when you made the game, but it's the people who wrote the game who should feel bad about themselves. I'm still playing the game because of the people who made it worked hard, and it's playable. But I just turn off all the voices because the people who wrote it did not work hard, and it is not listenable. It's terrible. They should feel bad.
Everyone should feel bad. That's my opinion. Yeah, I mean, that's fresh out the podcast. That's what we've been doing. You're all caught up now. Now you know what to think. So think what we think, and you'll be okay. I've been Johannan on at RockFact on Twitter. Hit me up with hashtag. What was our hashtag this week, boys? Hashtag Sage Row. No, don't hit me with that. Hashtag Polished Turd, and let us know what you think about games or shows or movies. Thank you.
It's me, Casualty CDG. If you like tabletop role-playing games, come check out Jahan and I every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. We play games with people. We talk to creators. We interview them. We read new games. We're just always doing game-type stuff. So if that's your scene, do that. Don't forget, if you have Hulu, watch Reservation Dogs. That's my recommendation for you this month to do if you're a Hulu guy. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you on the next Fresh Out the Podcast.
I am Drew Munhausen, at Drew Munhausen on Twitter, and it is worth noting that this week, on Thursday, September 22nd, I will be in Austin for Fantastic Fest for a whole 8 days of horror and genre filmmaking film festival. So, first off, if for some reason you listen to the show and you're going to be there and you see me, say hi. Secondly, I am planning to have lots of cool interviews and features and things that hopefully we will have popping up on this channel throughout the week. That is the hope right now. I will hopefully know more once I'm there and can get some things going. But yeah, so be on the lookout for some fun Fantastic Fest coverage coming at you in the next week or two.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Stay fresh.